How come everybody thinks when I smile I look like Mr. Bean?
Mr. Bean. I'll take his paycheck.
Yeah, I'll take his paycheck.
Welcome back once again, everybody, to our Loosey Goosey Show, the Air Radio News. And hopefully it's not as long as the last one.
Yeah. Oh, we had our local show for Halton Hills here.
Yes.
We had our mayor, Rick Bennett, and that was amazing, some of the stories he was telling us.
Oh, God, yeah. We could have went on for another hour. Yeah. Anyway, Big Daddy Russ Horton, I'm Lee Lakin with Leah Lywood in the producer's chair. Once again, we're bringing you your world news, I guess is the best way to put it, for anybody that wants to listen.
Well, we just do a little bit of that. Most of it is Leah's trivia.
Yeah.
Rock and roll, because basically it's the rock and roll show. We talk about music here as well, basically, in our radio stations, the Air Radio Network, which is FM 108.ca, which is Canada's oldies station. We have a lot of fun on the weekends.
Yeah.
Some great radio shows. Rich Appel is on there. My Top 40 Timeline's on there. We have the band's rock and roll bandstand show and the old school dance. We have so much fun on the weekends on FM 108 and GTA as well, our freeform station. And we have the Big 20, of course, which is our new music show.
Yep.
Myself and Bill Smith.
It's a new show about new music.
It's the freshest radio show in the world. If your radio station out there and you want to pick it up, we're on several stations. And I'd like to say hello to Music Box for Friends Radio in Belgium, who have just taken the Top 40 Timelines.
Hi, guys.
So,
how's it
guys,
going?
How you doing? And well, we're having fun, in our old age, aren't we?
That's what we're here for, is to have fun.
And we're brought to you this week by BonjourQuebec.com.
Buongiornos.
BonjourQuebec.com, Tabernacle. Quebec City and Montreal and just areas of Quebec are just so beautiful.
Oh, God, yeah.
And Quebec City.
Anybody, I was just about to say that. Anybody that they say, where should I go in Quebec? Go to Quebec City. It is a definite must.
BonjourQuebec.com, our sponsors this week.
Salut.
Let's look at the news here. I'll take a few stories. Mourners from across the UK and around the world are queuing for a second night to see the coffin of the Queen as she lies in state, now into the third.
The lineups are insane, man.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
And for federal government employees across Canada, by the way, September the 19th, this coming Monday, will be a holiday and a national day of mourning as Queen Elizabeth II's funeral is actually taking place in the UK. And actually, a government queue tracker estimates the wait time is at least 11.5 hours.
Wow.
11 and a half hours. What an amazing woman she was. And the impact she had on
worldwide.
The world.
Worldwide.
Not just England and not just the UK and Canada, but the world.
We have our Prime Minister and I think 4 or 5 others heading over there as well as part of our delegate for Canada to head over there. So, all these prime ministers met this lady, and it's a big impact on our world, that's for sure.
What's going on with the Indigenous leaders?
Indigenous leaders are calling on King Charles III to renounce the doctrine of discovery, and I think he's got a lot on his plate right now, so I may have to wait a little while on that one. Canada's housing market will cool more by the year's end than expected, the CREA has announced. Parole records reveal lengthy criminal past of the gunman behind the GTA shooting rampage. The suspect gunman, who killed 2, including a Toronto police officer, and injured 3 others, had a lengthy criminal history, and we do have a little bit of an update on that. The second person that was shot at the body shop in Milton, Ontario, Canada, is in critical condition, and they don't expect him to survive. So there could be another murder charge.
With the length of his rap sheet, why the hell did they let him out?
Yeah. In 2007, they said he was a high-risk offender, and they still let him out.
And I believe he killed his boss because he worked at the auto body shop.
Yeah.
Now, disgraced 55-year-old rhythm and blues star R. Kelly has been found guilty of child abuse, sexual abuse, actually, in his second trial. And Vladimir Zelensky said the troops have now retaken more than 6,000 square kilometers from Russian control in September. And the Ukrainian army are kicking some ass.
Yeah.
They really are. They're taking on one of the largest powers in the world, and they're kicking their ass. And you have to say that. It's happening.
And From what I understand, British Army sent over a bunch of high-ranking majors, colonels, things like that, to train these guys on how to do it. And look how fast they picked this up.
What a terrible war for the kids out there in the Army, and just needless.
Absolutely.
And
now you're looking
they
at
should be having pints together and
now
drinks
now we
together
should be
instead of
watching
shooting at each
China
other.
and Taiwan too. So
Well,
that's one that we definitely got to watch. But
that's in the Late Show, isn't it? China and Taiwan.
yeah.
The Late Show. We'll see. All right, we're gonna have some fun here.
Yes, we get
Time
back
for
into
Leah's
some reality.
trivia. Music trivia. And I get emails all the time, and all of our radio announcers on FM 108 especially adore her because there's Jim Stevens, Mark Panopoulos. It's like a little family corner every morning. It's like, what are they saying today? But you do put some amazing stuff up, Leah. We're going to have to get her on camera, because I don't think she's on cameras enough.
No, especially on this one.
Yeah. On this one, yeah. Before the end of the show, remember to come around and
Say hi.
and say hello. All right, let's have a look. I guess I'll kick it off. A wee tidbit. In 1982, Frank Zappa's son Dweezil and his daughter Moon Unit formed a band called Fred Zeppelin, of course. Remember them? And, that didn't last for long. Their first single was My Mother is a Space Cadet. And
had to be better than Valley Girl, Valley Girl, whatever that was.
I love Zappa, though.
Oh, I love Frank Zappa, Joe's Garage, one of my favorite tunes.
Well, I think it's inspirational for Lee's Garage.
Yeah, they're in a sense, yeah. And then,
I wondered about that. Yeah, you're right. Right there. Zappa.
You know that game they play with the two boards and you throw the beanbags chairs, or the beanbag bags?
Oh,
Right? And they call it cornhole.
I'm
All of
going.
us that know Frank Zappa know that you shouldn't be calling it that name.
Good point.
There's Lee's little tidbit. 1969, before taking the stage with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young at the Big Sur Folk Festival in California, Stephen Stills gets in a sloppy fist fight with a heckler, railing them for their prolific lifestyle. And the festival of raising funds for Jones Baez Institute for the study of nonviolence. So
Study of nonviolence,
and this guy's getting violent.
kicking each other in the head. 1970, U.S. Vice President Spiro Agnew said in a speech that the youth of America were being brainwashed into a drug culture by rock music, movies, books, and underground newspapers.
Well, guess what? He was right.
That's right. That's right.
He was right.
We're all corrupt.
Look at all these rockers that are just smoking weed now, because here in Canada it's legal.
Have you seen Ozzy lately?
Yeah.
Wow, man.
I'm surprised he got through recording an album.
Yeah.
Very surprised. 1997, a 34-year-old man was awarded more than £20,000 by a French court after he lost his hearing when he stood too close to loudspeakers at a U2 concert in 1993.
Huh? What was that? Didn't hear what you're saying there.
Is there any fine for stupidity? And what would that be in France?
Isn't it amazing some of the stories people come up with?
Oh yeah. Well, some countries like the U.S., you can sue for anything now. You know what I mean? Oh, I got a zit on my bum. I used your toilet paper and I got a zit on my bum. I'm suing you.
It's always been that way.
Like it's
They've
brutal.
always had specialized lawyers for everything right down to the breath you take.
Yeah, like it's insane, right?
You know what I hate about American radio is the last 10 seconds of every commercial is
Yeah. Oh
what
yeah.
the hell? Well, it's all legal, even
Yeah.
though you can't understand a word
Yeah.
they're saying.
They said it.
They said it.
Yeah.
And that's the way that the FCC looks at it. So you have all these normal commercials for 20 seconds, and then 10 seconds of absolute
Anal leakage.
gibberish. Just thought I'd throw that in there. But it does irritate the hell out of me when I'm listening to American radio. All right, where are we here?
September 15, 65.
Yes, this is a good one. Ford offers factory-installed 8-track tape players in its Mustang, Thunderbird, and Lincoln as well. This marks the first time 8-track players are widely available, so you can only get the tapes in auto parts stores for Ford dealers.
Yeah.
Well, they were thinking smart there with their head, as far as
Trying to corner the market.
That's right. The players have a tendency to chew up the tapes, leading to 8-track roadkill as drivers throw the tangled tapes out of their windows.
With it still stuck in the machine and dragging out behind the car.
Now, to this point, the only listening option in cars and radio is radio, basically.
Yeah.
Since putting a record player in a car would be a bit awkward and skip.
And
as
some
we mentioned last
manufacturers
week.
did.
That's right.
They did do it.
Cadillac.
Mick Jagger had a record player in his
Yep.
car, as a matter of fact. But I don't think he played it when he was driving. But why have... never mind. I'm just getting... you start wondering why would he do that? But anyway, maybe it had a weight on it or something. Who knows?
Hey, they had cars back in the 50s and 60s that had a bar in the glove box.
That's right. Anyway, all they had is radio, and since putting a record player in a car, I guess it would be awkward, and the cassette format isn't ready for prime time. And this means that for the first time, drivers can choose the music they listen to in a car. Before 8-track, there was 4 tracks. Some of those players were custom installed. Frank Sinatra had one.
There we go.
As a matter of fact, it was while driving in such a 4-track equipped car that Lear jet maker Bill Lear got the idea to improve the technology and create the 8-track. So that's how the 8-track came in. But I remember I had one of these nights album, well, it wasn't an album, it was an 8-track, and I played the hell out of it in my 1972 Gremlin.
Yeah.
I used to drive up and down Yonge Street with the
You were
Eagles
lucky
blasting.
you could drive even, you know. Those were famous for breaking down.
Oh yeah, they were. But
And-
a
and
lot of fun though.
The
those
worst
guys.
thing I hated about 8-track was in the middle of the
Oh, I
song.
thought you were talking
when it
about
was-
Gremlins.
Well, that too. No, that too. That too.
Just
Right in the middle of the song, it would switch program. Remember? It would
Yeah.
switch over
Oh, yeah.
to. Oh God, I hated that.
Over.
Didn't the track on the Led Zeppelin album of Stairway to Heaven come on 2 tracks?
Yeah.
If I remember.
Yeah.
You had to hear and then stop it and start it, or was it just my?
Well, no, you had to hit the next
Yeah.
button. You had to
Yeah.
hit the next button.
Oh, we've come a long
All right,
way.
some more tidbits for you. 1982, Nicky Hedden of The Clash was remanded on bail, charged with stealing a bus stop worth $30 from London's Fulham Road.
30 pounds.
30 pounds.
50 pounds.
Those rock stars are incredibly creative.
He
aren't
just
they?
wanted
When
it for
you
his
think of
man cave, man.
That's right.
That's all.
He was a Keith Moon fan, you know.
Oh, yeah.
There's a Keith Moon story. Anytime a rock star does something dumb,
Oh,
it's a Keith
it
Moon
came from
story.
Keith Moon,
That's right.
guaranteed.
Here's one I didn't know about.
Yeah.
And growing up in England, Top of the Pops, the BBC was it. Tony Blackburn, Jimmy Savile, all that stuff.
Well, it
not
was
Jimmy
our
Savile.
Casey Kasem, you know.
Yes,
our-
yeah, it was, yeah. Now, Slade, who are a great band.
Great band.
You know the band,
I
Noddy
love-
Holder,
yeah.
and who's also a radio guy now.
Run away.
So Slade were once barred from Top of the Pops' BBC bar. You know why? This huge band from England called Slade got into a scrap with
The Kinks.
another superstar band, the Kinks. Can you imagine that?
That'd be hilarious. I'd love to be a fly on
Oh,
the wall.
I didn't even know that, you know. And Slade were not big in North America, but man, in England they were.
They
bigger
were
than the
huge in
Kinks.
Australia too, as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And
Very
they had some
big in
great
Australia.
rock. Come on, feel the noise. It was originally a Slade,
Slade
song.
tune. Yep.
And you know, it was so many other songs. They still sound great today. Goodbye to Jane, and I love Slade. I remember the album, the Slayed, and had a picture of all of them. I remember it was in my record collection when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That's back when I used to tape Radio Luxembourg on my tape deck on Wednesday nights when they had the top 30 on. And I used to cut all the announcers out and keep all the music.
Yeah, the talk to talk.
Remember those days? The old
Oh,
tape
God, yeah.
decks, cassette decks?
Yeah, and just so people know, people that aren't DJs out there, that's Talk to Talk came to life because they wanted to prevent people from recording off of radio.
Yeah.
And if you were going to record it, you were going to get talk at the start and talk at the end of the song.
Over the
Over the song.
Over the entrance and
So
over the ending.
when people get mad at DJs for doing it today, they've been doing it for decades for
Right.
that reason alone. So that it was under the piracy laws or something, and that's why they brought
Well,
it
I'm
out.
going to jail. I'm going straight to hell because I'm a radio historian. I used to record radio stations.
Yeah.
I was also always more interested in what other people were doing than what I was doing. What I was doing was probably taking from what they were doing and making
well,
my
that
own.
was it.
You
Well,
know,
you
that
do.
was just the way you grow,
tend
right?
to do that, right?
So I used to record radio stations and you trade tapes with other radio people all over the world. And my buddies always said, "Why are you doing that?" Well, now, all these historic tapes from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, you know, I have hundreds and hundreds of recordings of Chum Radio from back in 1968. And newscasts are on there. The commercials are on there. It's like you're reliving history. You know what I mean? And now, all my buddies back then who thought I was a nerd, I am still a nerd, think, oh, he's a historian. So now, you know, and people in Toronto, and this is a worldwide show, are so focused on Toronto. Man, there's so much more out there. There's New York City radio. There's Los Angeles.
When I was traveling in the States, the amount of stuff I listened to throughout the States, the small market radios too as well, you know, privately owned small market radios, not pirate ones, but they're small market. Some of the stuff you'd hear on there was absolutely hilarious. It was incredibly funny.
Radio is worldwide, and there's so many different, it's like having a dog. There's no one dog the same. You know what I mean? Every dog is different in their own way. The same with radio stations across the world. There's a guy named Dan Ingram, WABC. People in Toronto have no idea who I'm talking about. Greatest disc jockey in the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But anyway, what happened in 1968?
The first episode of the comic strip series, The Archies, was aired on US TV on a Saturday morning. We all woke up our Saturday morning cartoons. The recording group had contributions from Ron Dante, Andy Kim, Jeff Berry, and many others. Rock mogul Don Kirshner, who also brought us the Monkees, was put in charge of the studio group. The following year, the Archies started an 8-week run at number 1 on the UK singles charts with Sugar Sugar, becoming the longest running one-hit wonder in the UK.
And a Canadian content song. Andy Kim.
Andy Kim.
And a great song. I still love that song.
Yeah, I had it on.
That hook.
You know, we have it on our stations, just so you know. So, of course.
Yeah, we have everything on our stations, too.
79.
Yeah, the film version of Quadrophenia, the Who's 1973 rock opera about growing up in London, premieres at the Toronto Film Festival. I remember that movie. A great film.
Amazing film.
Yeah. My brother was a teddy boy back in the UK with his bike. I mean,
his teddy boy.
Don't mess with me, boy. I'll, never mind.
I love this next story. This next one is priceless because some of these names are hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the aliases Sir Elton John has used checking into hotels include Prince Fubu, Sir Humphrey Handbag, Lillian Lollipop, Lord Chalk Ice, Lord Olympus, Binky Poodle Clip, and Sir Henry Poodle, Sir Horace, Pussy Marquis of the Minge, and Judas Fart are just some of the names that Sir Elton John has used to check into a hotel.
You know what my favorite of all those is? Lord Elpis. Lord Elpis.
Lord Elpis. Lord Elpis.
Elton is such a creative person.
Oh, God, the guy is hilarious.
Like, just incredible.
I had to look at a few places to get on. There was only a few listed in the one spot I found. I thought, there's no way. There's got to be more than
I'm
that.
sure there's more.
Oh, there probably is. But I went and found a bunch of the other ones because I thought, oh, there's got to be more.
Yeah,
you know, Elton John, people don't realize until you start, as you look at, if you get a Billboard book and look at the hits the guy had. I mean, you're not just talking the 70s. He's been around. He's still around today.
Absolutely.
He's got a single on the top 40 right now.
Lives here in Caledon, Ontario, Canada.
That's right. And he's got a heated driveway.
Yes, he does.
Did you know that?
Yeah, Todd did landscaping on his property years back.
One of my buddies, a tow truck driver in Erin, picked him and his better half
David?
up in the ditch.
Yeah.
And and from what he told me, my buddy, I don't know if he's making it up, my buddy says, can you sing a little bit of your song to me? And he sang it in the back of the tow truck in the little back. Because he sat in the back and his partner sat in the front.
Well, Elton's a lot smaller than David is. So.
Can you imagine that, driving on a country road north of Toronto?
With a live version.
With a live version of Elton John singing your song in the back.
I met him 50 years ago, actually. Yeah, my mom worked for MCA Recording Studios.
Yeah, you were telling me that.
And I just had a bunch of baby teeth taken out. And the dentist was like a kilometer away from my mom's office.
Right.
And she called the dentist receptionist and said, when my son is done, you tell him to get over here right now. So I did. Of course, Mom tells you to get there right now. You better get your ass in gear.
What year would this have been?
This would have been 72.
Yeah, that's when he was.
72. And I booked it over there, and I had all this gauze in my mouth, right? I had teeth pulled. I had all these teeth pulled. So I had all these gauze in my mouth, and I get there, and blood's everywhere. He come up, and he shook my hand. And then, now, you got to remember, this is at the time of the height of his bizarre outfits.
And the goldfish and the heels.
The stuff he had. And when he came out of the... And when he came out of the elevator, he was actually promoting the Here and There album.
Okay.
And because I had it, I don't know if my mom might still have it. He'd signed it for me and everything. And back in the day when you got a promo album, I don't know if you guys, because I know some stations when I was at them, they'd cut the corner off of the album.
I've heard of that.
So it would say it was a promo album, right? Yeah. So I had that one signed and whatever, and he'd come up and he scuffed me on the head, and I'm trying to like this, right? And he just kind of snickered and laughed, and then we ended up going to his show, VIP, backstage passes and everything. And my brother at the time was the fan. He was the one who loved Elton John, and I really didn't know who he was. I just knew him because of my brother talking about him, right? I was 5.
Oh, 5.
I was 5.
Oh, God.
So I hardly knew who the guy was, but the whole getting in the limo and going backstage with him and the whole... I get home, my brother was so pissed off. Oh my God, he was so mad. But he got to go with us when we went and did the Who thing. Because
you're a lucky kid.
I got to meet Keith Moon. That's how I fell in love with Keith Moon.
Wow.
I was standing stage left in awe watching him play. And I was from here to your cab away.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, this week in 1960, a campaign was started in the UK to ban the American hit Tell Laura I Love Her by Ray Peterson.
Great tune.
Yeah, it's just an iconic tune. The song was being denounced in the press as likely to inspire a teenage glorious death cult. Oh my goodness. The story told of a lovesick youngster who drives in a stock car race to win the hand of his sweetheart. And he crashes, and just before dying, groans out the words of the title, Tell Laura I Love Her. But you know, the BBC
had a very bizarre censorship board.
They had a ridiculous, and their programming.
Harry's all dressed up. Sorry.
There you go. The programming on the BBC in the 60s, before 1964, was so boring. And Dave the dog, that's what you're looking at.
Dave.
Well, maybe we'll get him in on a cameo here. He's a bulldog that is named Dave.
Lives across the street from Lee's garage.
Yes. And anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, they're very
the BBC have always been
very
like
bizarre.
that.
It's still to this day really are. And then you look at a show. Have you ever seen the Graham Norton show?
Yeah.
Yet he's got free reign.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane what they say on that show.
Yeah.
I'm like, even the American actors or Canadian actors go over there and go, I can't believe we get to say all this shit on this show.
But you won't play Tell Laura I Love Her by Ray Peterson.
Again, the FCC, and we were talking about this not long ago, bans payola, the controversial practice of paying DJs for playing songs. As a result of the scandal involving, among others, Dick Clark and Alan Freed, WABC fired Freed, and he was charged with 26 counts of commercial bribery. Freed escaped with fines and a suspended jail sentence. He died 5 years later, broke and virtually forgotten about. And that's so true.
What? He was brokenhearted over that, something so God.
Well, they made him the scapegoat, right? And in my opinion, because there were a lot of more DJs than that taking payola at that time. And it still were carried on into the 70s. Like that episode in WKRP where the hired DJ comes in and gets the coke in the sleeve and that. I hate to say, that still probably goes on today in many cases.
I would imagine with Spotify and stuff.
It's a little different.
It's a little different, I guess. But you're right.
You know.
The thing I like about today's music is with Spotify, it tells you, hey, this song is cool. Listen to it. And that's the problem with people that are 60 and up is we don't give this new shit a chance.
Yeah.
Because you don't look hard enough. That's why.
Well,
You
they
have
are.
to dig to find.
I'm one of them.
And that's what the Big 20 is all about. It's the 20 new songs every week from every genre of music across the world that would appeal to somebody our age. We don't play heavy goth rock. We don't play hip hop. Because I'll tell you why. There's nothing wrong with either of those formats, but you can't mix that music
Nope.
with country, indie, rock, and pop. And that's the majority of the music.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything against hip hop. It's just that we don't do that.
It's very hard to program.
Oh.
Extremely hard to program.
You know, I mean, and it's totally different.
Because I've had people, when I was running Halt and Hits, that was one of the questions they'd ask me about. How come there's no hip hop?
Well, you can have a hip hop show.
You could have it. Well, that's
you
what
know.
we ended up doing.
Yeah,
was doing
which
a
is
hip
a
hop
great
show.
idea. I mean, I'm not saying anything against the music. I just said it's so goddamn hard to
Mix.
program it.
Yeah.
And the same with heavy rock too.
Yeah.
As much as I love sometimes to put on a little heavy rock, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't mix well with our. That's why we play it at night. You know what I mean? And that's always been in the back of my head. And I'm wondering, why am I doing it at night, not during the day anymore? You know,
Yeah.
and people, because it's a different landscape.
Yeah.
But that's the way I look at it. Anyway, what's going on? I've lost
63.
myself here. 63, and it's me, right?
Yep.
Graham Nash fell out of the Hollies van after a gig in Scotland.
No, he wasn't.
Hey.
He wasn't high.
Nash checked to see if the door was locked. It wasn't, and he fell out as it traveled to 40
miles.
miles
That would
an
hurt.
hour. Yeah.
That would hurt. 40 miles an hour, man. You're moving.
Imagine
Full
that.
scroll.
You know, often I've done that. I've gone around a corner really quickly and gone, what if that door wasn't, you know, and I didn't have my seatbelt, I'd be out the door.
Yeah.
And you got to be careful when you're
Well,
driving.
back then they didn't wear seatbelts,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah. Well, that's it.
there
Exactly.
was no seatbelt.
Solid gold. Eh?
1980, the TV series Solid Gold premieres like its genre mates American Bandstand and Soul Train. The show consists of top 40 music, mostly recorded, obviously, in a studio with a dance stage and a floor. A feature of the show is a specialty crew of Solid Gold dancers who bump and grind to the tunes. Dionne Warwick is the host for the first
remember
season,
that.
but the show rotates through numerous hosts during its course, and the show runs almost 8 seasons before discontinuing in 1988. So, yeah, I remember the show. I always thought it was very
Bubblegum.
bubblegum's a good word.
That's
Very,
all I've heard. That's
yeah.
how I phrase it.
I used to like
Bubblegum.
Soul Train. Soul Train.
Soul Train was
Yeah,
good.
Soul Train was good.
Soul Train was really good.
Yeah.
American Bandstand.
Motown
But yeah, well, I
shows,
think
the
Dionne
soul.
Warwick was the wrong person to
Yeah.
have. It was more of a pop show. You know,
Yeah.
than a rock
Well,
and roll
again, like
show.
the bubblegum
Or
aspect, right?
Soul or whatever.
So what was Freddie singing about?
Freddie Mercury, what was he singing about in
A lot of people ask this question.
Bohemian Rhapsody? Scaramouche, Scaramouche, will you do the fandango? Scaramouche is a traditional clown character featured in Italian commedia dell'arte and a stock character in Punch and Judy shows. And the fandango is a lively couples dance. So now you
So-
know when you're going down the road with your buddies singing
Scaramouche, Scaramouche, will you do the
There
fandango?
you go.
Very, very frightening, Galileo.
This is funny about the Beatles, eh?
I
1967.
haven't read it yet, to be honest
Okay,
with
you're
you, so I'm
get
going to
it.
laugh my ass
See,
off while
he
I'm
never-
reading it.
I put everything together along with Leah, but I purposely tell him don't read it till you go on the air because I want his response. To
Absolutely.
It. So go
It's-
ahead and read that
Live.
one.
All right, here we go. Let's see if I pee my pants. 1967, filming continued for the Beatles' Magical Mystery Tour.
Oh, yeah.
The bus headed for Wildcombe on the Moor.
Widdicombe.
Widdicombe?
Yeah.
On the Moor, where a local fair was being held, but the bus driver, a guy named Alf Manders, took a shortcut to bypass heavy traffic and ended up stuck on a bridge. The coach ended up having to drive in reverse for a half a mile before it could turn around. Then they head for the Plymouth, followed by a 20-car convoy of journalists and photographers.
He made the wrong decision there. Can you
Bad
imagine having
choice.
to back up for
half a mile?
A bus. It's
Yeah.
not even a car. It's
A
a bus.
bus on English roads. Yeah,
And you
on
see-
English
You
roads.
see the picture of the bridge.
Yeah.
It was like barely a one-car bridge.
Right. Oh, that's crazy.
1979, the ABC News program 2020 runs the special The Elvis Cover-Up, which alleges that Elvis Presley's death was linked to prescription drugs. And when it's Dr. George Nicopolis, right?
Nicopolis.
Nicopolis,
right, yeah.
Nicopolis is brought to trial. Evidence shows that Elvis had prescriptions for about 10,000 doses of drugs just in the year that he died. My God. 1985, Rolling Stone publishes their interview with Prince as well. He has not spoken to the press in 3 years. He remains elusive, but explains why he made up stories in his early years to appease and confound reporters. I used to tease a lot of journalists early on because I wanted them to concentrate on the music, and he was very focused on his music.
And he was a very intelligent guy.
Oh,
very intelligent man.
Epic performer.
Yeah. Oh, the shows he put on were
the music he gave us.
And that's the thing is a lot of people don't realize. You know, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I brought up the fact that he wrote, Everything Compares to You that Sinead O'Connor did, and they had no idea Prince had written that. And I'm like, oh, he's written so much music that was done by other people. U2, even the Allman Brothers, I think, did one of his tunes. It's crazy the amount of stuff he wrote. It was insane.
All right.
1985, the Rolling Stones publishes their interview. Oh,
I think I run that twice.
That ran twice. That's okay.
That's my fault. Give me a slap. Go ahead. There you go.
1966, the Monkees TV show makes its debut with 4 actors chosen to portray a pop band based on the Beatles. While the Monkees are a fictional band, they become very real and eventually play on their own recordings instead of studio musicians. It all started with an ad in Variety seeking 4 insane boys ages 17 to 21 to star in the new NBC sitcom. Answering the call among 400 hopefuls are 2 folkies, Mike Nesmith and Peter Tork, an English actor named Davy Jones, we all know, and a former child star, Mickey Dolenz. Together they are the Monkees, an inspiring rock and roll band bumbling their way through their big break in many zany adventures, and they're too busy singing out to anybody down or putting anybody down.
Too busy.
And
they
didn't even know how to play instruments, if I remember.
When they started,
initially
they had to learn.
Isn't it amazing how they got to the point where they could actually record their own hits?
Exactly.
Which is phenomenal. During the late 60s, Jimi Hendrix, tired of his band and wanting to try something different, expressed an interest in playing with Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
That would have been.
And this led the British press to speculate about a supergroup called Help, or Hendrix, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. A bit of history, of course, there from rock and roll history. I didn't know that one at all.
That's a funny one.
I didn't even know that. And but can you imagine if that would have happened? Oh, incredible.
1956, police were called to break up a crowd of rowdy teenagers following the showing of the film Rock Around the Clock at the Trocadero Cinema in London, England. The following day, the Times printed a reader's letter that had said the hypnotic rhythm and wild gestures have been maddening effect on rhythm-loving age group, and the result of its impact is the relaxing of all self-control.
Sounds like fun, doesn't it?
Yeah. The film was quickly banned in several English cities after that. So,
God.
Those uptight Brits are some of the...
Well, even in the States, in the 50s, Elvis went through the same thing with his gyrating hips and all this bullshit. Which was really ridiculous, but not so back in the time. That's the way they thought. That's the way, as it goes as it flows, right? And that's the way it is. A wee tidbit here. Constantly touring America in 1955, over 250 shows, Elvis Presley would cruise around towns after his shows in a pink and white Cadillac, which had his name painted in black on the driver's door. And can you imagine just being in a neighborhood and seeing Elvis drive by in his pink Cadillac?
He was on a tour.
I see him all the time. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know.
He was on a tour for like 250 concerts is what he was doing.
Yeah.
And that's what he did every night after.
Yeah. I think that the Colonel had something to do with that myself.
1926, the Radio Corporation of America, or later known as RCA, launches its new radio network, the National Broadcasting Company. now known as NBC.
NBC. Now you know where I get the chimes from.
That's where he got it from.
All right. In 1955, Seaberg introduces their latest jukebox, which not only holds a record 100 singles, but is also capable of playing the same number of EPs. So I guess this week is the jukebox birthday. And I love jukeboxes. You know, it just...
I always love the ones there's a restaurant downtown here in the little town of Acton, Ontario, and it was called the Sub Shop. And at the table, you had the little ones. Yeah. You could flip through. And
Yeah.
I drove my grandmother nuts. Feeding her money
Yeah.
when we'd go
Yeah.
to those machines on the wall at the table.
Yeah. That's how Top 40 Radio was created. Was a guy, Todd Stores. He was sitting in a restaurant with a bunch of kids. And this is 1954, 1955, mid-50s, before Top 40 Radio, which saved radio, by the way. And he was in there for about 2 hours just watching what the kids were doing. And they were playing the same 20 songs over and over again.
That's how
and he
the Top
owned a
40 was
radio
built.
station.
Yeah.
And he put that into a format and said, okay, these are the big hits this week. You play these, the kids want to hear these songs. Because they were doing it in the restaurant.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of trivia that
Interesting.
I added to the show. There you go.
Oh,
Nice.
here's a great story, and I still think he could win this goddamn contest today. 1974, Keith Richards was nominated the world's most elegantly wasted human being by the New Musical Express. And there's a little bit of history for you.
Shocking.
I still think he could win it today.
And talking about the BBC, here we are again. In 1962, listen to this.
I know.
The BBC banned Bobby Boris Pickett and the Crypt Kickers, and the single Monster Mash, saying it was
Monster Mash.
offensive.
It was a graveyard smash.
Oh, that's right. They thought it was offensive, apparently in the UK. And then, of course, the single went on to be a UK number 3 hit in 1973.
And now was played every Halloween on pretty much every station out there.
And it's on for commercials.
How
it's on for everything
can
anymore.
Monster Mash be offensive, though? What kind of grass were they smoking in
Graveyard
London
snack? I don't
at the
know.
BBC? I mean, come on. There's some of these ridiculous. No wonder pirate radio took over.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
they thought
I mean,
someone
it's
was
just-
going to start ruining graveyards because
Yeah.
of it. Who knows?
It was a fun novelty song from America
Exactly.
about monsters. I mean, the BBC air all the old Wolfman movies and all the old Dracula movies. And this is a song about a novelty song about which is sold how many copies?
Oh, God.
Excuse me. Hello.
Like, I couldn't even tell you. Finally, 1992, Nirvana's single Smells Like Teen Spirit was released in the U.S. The unexpected success of Smells Like Teen Spirit in the late 1991 propelled Nevermind to the top of the charts at the start of 1992. And this often is the moment when they, said we're alternative rock or grunge, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, they started a trend, didn't they? Nirvana
Was the mainstream. Yeah, Nirvana was one of the first ones to come out on mainstream radio. Like, grunge had been out for years. It had been out there. It was, like, punk was that kind of similar situation that it never really made mainstream radio. Clash got there a little bit, a few other bands, but not many others. But yeah, when Nevermind came out, I don't think anybody in the band, because I've seen interviews with Dave Grohl and stuff, none of them expected that kind of response from that album. And it was every song on the album is good.
It's epic.
It's one of those albums you have in your collection that you go, you know what, I like every track on the album.
We gotta go, man. It's done.
Yeah, we're done.
Finished.
But it worked out perfect. Perfect timing.
And, don't forget, check out our radio stations. Thanks for joining us every week. It's just a show about nothing, basically like Seinfeld, but it's about rock and roll. And it's about our lives and the way we look at things in Canada. Canadian radio like FM108.ca,
Banana
radio
Mellows.
GTA.ca. And don't forget the Top 40 timeline. Hello to everyone there at Music Box for Friends in Belgium.
That's awesome. That's great.
The radio
Thanks.
show is all over the world now. It's in Australia. It's and all of our radio shows are doing well. Not only are we the Air Radio Network with our radio, we also produce shows for radio stations
Stations
around the world. So
Absolutely.
that's basically what we do. So we're in Halton Hills, Canada, Canada's hometown, and we are the Air Radio Network, right? And
Beautiful.
here we go, and thanks for joining us. And you do the extra, and I'll do the thing.
Big Daddy Russ Horton, I'm Lee Lakin, Miss Leah Lylewood behind the camera. Have yourselves a great week. Thank you all for joining us. Oh yeah, she's got to step in on the film on this
Step in
one.
right at the end here.
Just
If
because
you're
you guys get to
wondering,
know who does all the
the
work.
good-looking one in the group.
Who does all
You
the
guys
work.
do all the
All
work.
right,
I just
there
have
we
fun.
go.
I
This is
I push
Leah.
buttons.
Leah, say hi
Sort
to
of.
everyone in the world. There, right there.
Hey,
Right
how's
there,
everyone
right there.
doing?
All right.
Have a great week, everybody, and we'll catch you on the B-side.
Beautiful. Awesome. I haven't